What's up, guys? It is June 14th, 2018. Going to get the Q&A done from a few days ago. This week, topic was lab work by request. I've done this one before, but I had another request for it. Always seems to be a popular topic since you don't always get the answers you want at the doctor, as we know. Haven't looked at the thread in a few days. I honestly have no idea what's asked in here. So let's see what we have going on. All right, first one regarding hemoglobin, hematocrit. How far above range do you feel would be a real concern? Do you have any suggestions on how to lower hemoglobin, hematocrit? I'm not. I don't really feel comfortable saying, you should allow it to get this far above range or this, or, just because it's probably not really good to be above range at all. A little bit above range probably isn't a huge concern, like many other things, because it is a range. But again, I wouldn't want to sit here and say necessarily go this much above range, but ways to lower it. Giving blood seems to be the most popular way, though some evidence might suggest that that would actually cause you to increase production of red blood cells just through necessity, replenishment. So I typically see it work okay with most people, unless they're chronically elevated, but it tends to work if you're doing it frequently enough. Like here in the U.S., every 8 weeks, every 56 days, you can actually donate. Use the Red Cross app, keeps you updated, all that stuff. Typically, most people are okay. Some people will actually do like a phlebotomy from a doctor or a nurse phlebotomist, which is a lot. It's going to take more blood. But again, it seems to work for most people. There's a lot of things. There's actually quite a few things that contribute to thickening of the blood, increased red blood cells. Obviously, PEDs are a big one, certain ones. Let's assume that those aren't in play. Someone's on maybe just hormone replacement or on nothing. One interesting thing I saw about hormone replacement actually was that injectable testosterone increased hemoglobin, hematocrit more than transdermal testosterone, which was really interesting. Injectable was actually the only method that increased it to any significant degree. So that, I'm not sure how accurate that is. I've never compared. I have no comparisons and no blood work to back that up. I saw there was actually a study on that. This was pretty interesting. So I don't know if you want to switch to transdermal testosterone if you're using injectable for hormone replacement, but that could be something to consider if it's chronic enough. Lowering testosterone levels, and a lot of people that are on hormone replacement, for example, they float a little too high. They're floating up like 1,000, more than 1,000. Drop down to 700, 800. Your hemoglobin, hematocrit will drop most likely. Going off completely would help too, but I would argue that you're going to be probably more unhealthy walking around extremely hypogonadal all the time too. So that's a little bit of give and take there. Obviously, you might need to lower your dose a little bit to find that sweet spot. But again, there's a lot of other inflammatory factors and stuff that can go into it. Also, one really simple one that most people don't consider with our high protein diets is just overconsumption of certain minerals. Even a slight bit of, and by slight, I don't know, I don't have exact numbers, but it's from what I understand, even excessive storage of certain minerals in tissue and circulating in the blood can cause increased red blood cells and hematocrit and hemoglobin to increase. So that's something to think about. I know especially iron consumption, a lot of people have high iron. They never get it checked because it's just not a common thing we check on blood work. I would suggest checking your iron. on your next blood work and see where that's at. It's an easy one to have. It's easy to have high iron when you're consuming a lot of red meat or just the type of diet that we consume in general. Eat more vegetables. That's a really simple one. There's actually things in vegetables that you could call anti-nutrients that actually help balance out some of that over storage of minerals. So that's a really easy one as well. Anything that keeps the blood thinner too and regulates platelet function is good. Fruit flow is a tomato extract. That's a really cool supplement, kind of a little bit newer, something to check into. There's another one. I mean, I'm not really a fan of baby aspirin all the time just because of this bad effects on your GI lining. But fish oils, that's another great one. You know, plenty of omega-3s, obviously. And, yeah, so there's quite a few things there. And sorry about the camera zooming in and out on this. I think it's because of the way the light is in the background, but I'm not going to restart the video now, so too late. So we'll deal with it. But next one, if you wear a lab coat, does that in fact make your IQ higher? If working in a lab does one need a pipe? Well, I don't know. I do a lot of my best work in my pajamas on the toilet, and can't say that I've ever worn a lab coat. So I don't know, but I don't really know what my IQ is either. I'm gonna have to try it out. As far as the pipe goes, absolutely does. Has to be a bubble pipe though. Really good scientists are gonna know that smoking's bad for them, so I would probably stick to a bubble pipe. What can Clenbuterol and other fat burners impact as far as blood work goes? Well, you say other fat burners, I'm not really sure what that means, just because from a mechanistic standpoint, a lot of them do different things and they're going to have different impacts. But I mean, Clenbuterol specifically could impact electrolytes on blood work. Maybe. I mean, not really seen it do anything super significant on blood work, to be honest. More likely to see it do something on an EKG than on blood work. But, nah, I mean, you're probably not going to see anything super significant other than maybe electrolytes, possibly kidney values moving a little bit. But again, I've never noticed it to an extent that was like, oh my gosh, look at the difference in the blood work type of thing. So, okay, let's see. Specific differences when looking at markers for someone enhanced versus natural. I mean, there's not a lot of differences other than, you know, if someone's enhanced, depending on what they're taking, yeah, I mean, there's certain things that are going to be thrown off more easily, like lipid profile, you know, LDL increasing, HDL decreasing, and that's probably the most common thing. Is just natural people that are healthy that don't have a super high testosterone levels tend to have, I mean, I see crazy high HDLs in some people, and I see LDLs lower than HDLs in a lot of natural people that are, you know, quote unquote very healthy and have the right diets and stuff. So, I mean, lipid profile is probably the biggest one. Obviously, other things can be thrown off too. If someone's using oral, you know, an oral anabolic or something, and liver values can be thrown off. You might see kidney values thrown off. I mean, really anything could be thrown off. There's not a lot of specific differences. It's really just contextual depending on what they're taking, how much of it, other things. But I mean, you're still going to look for things to be good, even if someone's enhanced. I mean, that's the goal, still have good blood work. You apparently and other good coaches like to interpret and won't proceed unless a client has good lab work. What specifically do you look for and determine good? I'm sure ALT, ALST, and some kidney function crap, but maybe some are always out of range, a smidge. An extension to that question was, and levels that might be skewed, EGFR, liver, etc. What are your feelings on getting numbers lower, actually following not working out for 1 to 2 days, or so you recommend that anyways. Not really representative of day to. I have no idea what's going on. Okay. Anyhow, lab work. Just like I said above, still going to look for it to be good. I mean, there's no reason that, unless a person, yeah, I mean, obviously if this person's in the middle of a big blast, their blood work's probably not going to look that good. It's temporary. It should look, as I always say, it should look good more than it looks bad. Short term, if someone's blood work is skewed because of additional usage of PEDs or whatever, hard dieting or something, hard deficit or whatever, then that's one thing, but it shouldn't be like that all the time or more, or the majority of the time. So, I mean, I'm going to look for things to be good. I mean, yeah, ALT and AST can be thrown off by training. I would say 75% of the time people aren't in range anyhow unless they take a few days off. And it can take, the studies show, I mean, it can take like 48, 72 hours even for them to come back to normal. So, I mean, they may never be completely normal. Though a doctor that I really trust, my personal doctor, he's actually talked to me about that, and he says he thinks the ranges are a little low for what they should be, and it's really not alarming. If someone's like 200-300, then yeah, that's an issue. But if you're 10 points out of range or something, it's probably really irrelevant considering the training and whatnot. So even though I know every doctor on the planet flips out. Now, kidney values. One of the things I see most commonly with kidney values, just people are going to the test dehydrated if it's a fasted blood work. Always make sure that you're as hydrated as possible, because just being dehydrated could definitely throw off the EGFR and other kidney values, your bun, creatinine and stuff. So, I mean, you just try to be as hydrated as possible. If someone's not hydrated, and I'll want them to retest it, I try to make sure, hey, how much water did you drink? How long? How much time did you get in between drinking the water and testing? And was your urine still dark colored when you went in? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, I would say that's probably the biggest thing with the kidney values. And then if we know all those things are in check and they're still off, then we might have an issue. But yeah, I mean, in general, I'm going to look for lab work to be good. Let's say someone's just on a TRT dose and they are starting to work with their coach. They want to do growth phase or contest prep or whatever, and those additional supplementation is going to come into play. I mean, everything should be right on before they start, or pretty damn close. And if not, we're gonna correct it. I mean, obviously, there's some things that are just genetically predisposed to being a little bit off. But I mean, if someone's wanting to start a contest prep and use a bunch of additional supplementation and they have an HDL of 12 or 9 or something stupid, and just, and like their kidney values look like shit and their hormones are all whacked out, they're hypothyroid or what. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's not, I'm just telling them no. I mean, we have to fix this stuff first. For one, your body's not going to function optimally anyhow, and you're not going to get the best results. And secondly, it's only going to get worse when you introduce things that skew your lab works. I mean, yeah, we need them to be in range or good. Whatever good is, depending on the value. Can you talk about estrogen levels in general? Low FSH and LH and low estrogen versus normal or high? I mean, that's a really broad question. I mean, LH and FSH are really, you call them stimulatory hormones. I mean, they're helping with hormone production in some way, shape, or form. Females and males are a little bit different, at least like where we produce hormones, things. Most females aren't going to have, I mean, your estrogen is so cyclical in females that you need to know, like, if you're getting your estrogen levels checked, you need to know what phase of your cycle are on. You're in your luteal phase. Are you menstruating, or what's going on? Those things will affect your estrogen levels if you're actually getting them checked. But low estrogen would be a sign of menopause or early menopause if you're not that old, or some kind of other, if estrogen levels are really skewed, some kind of other issue like like a hypothalamic issue or something with pituitary or PCOS or something like that. So, I mean, you would need to investigate further. But you mentioned FSH and LH. I mean, if those stimulatory hormones are very low, then chances are that you're probably going to have some other hormone imbalances somewhere, because production is not where it needs to be. It's hard for me to say much more than that, just because there's so much that goes on in the feedback loop there that you really have to start connecting dots to figure out, okay, where's the root of the problem? Why is it there? What is it? What's it caused from? Blah, 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 blah. High estrogen levels, I don't see a lot of like chronically high estrogen levels in women, to be honest, any more than what's normal. I mean, their estrogen's higher than men, but assuming I know what phase of their menstrual cycle they're on, and when I'm looking at their blood work and what have you, I don't see it a lot, to be honest. And if it is, I would also probably want to look at complete estrogen profiles. So look at all three of the primary estrogens: estradiol, estrone, and trying to think of the third one, estriol, I think. Don't quote me on that. E1, 2, and 3, basically. So, yeah, I mean, I would want to look at the whole profile. I would also want to look at testosterone. I would want to look at the stimulatory hormones and see, okay, where are all those things at? Are we having an issue at production? Is there an issue where the hormones are produced? Is there an issue with at a different step of the process? So you got to really break it down and figure out, okay, which step of the process is the issue at, and makes it a little bit easier to figure out what the root of the problem is. But you mentioned, let's see, of course the doctor says it's all normal. Yeah, of course. It's if you're having like a multi-step issue, like something like hormones here, where there is a feedback loop, you need to educate yourself, find somebody that knows how to read a feedback loop to trace the steps and figure out at least a decent idea of what's going on. I would even suggest too, if you notice something's off on like a base blood work, get a more in-depth analysis done. Like I said, complete estrogen profile. Get a Dutch test done. I've talked about the dried urine testing. That's an excellent test, and that'll actually show many of the conversion steps there, because we get to see estrogen metabolites, we get to see progesterone, we get to see the balance of the two. It's going to know what part of your cycle you're on. We get to see adrenal hormones, and so all those things, and see where, what's converting to what and how much. And that makes it way easier. Granted, it's a lot more numbers to analyze and a lot more values, but you really have to have those things when you're looking at a complex feedback loop like that. So I don't really know if that doesn't answer the question directly, but I hope that helps anyhow. What would you check to see if you're properly hydrated? Is there no way to check that? Cellular hydration through blood work. I mean, the main thing on the blood work would just be electrolytes. You can see sodium, potassium, chloride, etc. But that's really all you're going to see on blood work. To see if you're properly hydrated, the easiest thing is just make sure you're drinking enough water and having enough electrolytes. And as long as your urine is it doesn't have to be clear, just a light yellow color, you're probably hydrated. Really, it's that simple for most people, assuming there's no big electrolyte imbalances, or you're not taking something that severely throws off electrolyte balance or depletes sodium or excretes a certain electrolyte, like a diuretic, whether it's a blood pressure medication or whatever, that is excreting one electrolyte, or potassium sparing or something like that. As long as none of those things are in play, then you're probably just basing it off of, my urine's relatively light, I'm drinking plenty of water, I'm getting plenty of sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, blah, 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 you're good to go. Pretty much. Next. Ways to reduce high cortisol levels and low estrogen. Okay, low. I'm not sure what that means. Ways to reduce low estrogen. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that's not the question. Refer to the above answer for the estrogen portion, because I don't want to. I'm not really sure what that means. It says low estrogen. I'm not sure if you mean raising estrogen or what. But high cortisol. Well, I mean, there's certain supplements that could help with that, but really it's cortisol. Okay, first off, you need to know that you have high cortisol. Here's the thing. A lot of people think they have some certain symptoms and they have high cortisol. Get it checked. At the very least, get an AM cortisol test on your blood work. It's going to at least show you waking response, what you got going on in the morning, readiness for your day, and so on. But if that's off, or if you want to go in more in depth, go back, like I said, the Dutch test above. They have an adrenal test, or you can get, I think Life Extension has a dry urine test now. In any kind of like good 4-point cortisol test that'll test them throughout the day and maybe show you metabolites like your cortisone, DHEA, DHEAS. See those things. Actually know that you have high cortisol and what the patterns are. Do you have high cortisol in the morning? Do you have high cortisol at night? Do you have high cortisol in the middle of the day? Do you even have high cortisol? Or do you just have some symptoms that you think are high cortisol? You know what I mean? So like cortisol heightened in certain situations is a really good thing. We need it. Obviously, overtaxing your adrenals with constant cortisol production is not good. Normally, it's lifestyle related, to be completely honest, unless you're just like massively, grossly over consuming stimulants or something, or, but I mean, a lot of it's lifestyle related. It's a combination of factors. It can be huge overconsumption of stimulants combined with overtraining, combined with just systemic stress and just life stress, and it could be all of those things in combination. I've talked about this stuff extensively as far as like regulating sleep-wake cycles. Sleep, I have a whole article on sleep. I have a whole entire series on adrenal insufficiency, and although that's low cortisol, but reduce stress, reduce overall stress load, whether that's from training, cardio, life. Just maybe I've made a post the other day that's really relevant to this. It was really relevant to a lot of people, is stress elimination versus perception. Talking about, inevitably we have stressors in our life because we have to do things. We have to work. We get stuck in traffic, or anything that's stressful, unforeseen stuff. Even we can't possibly eliminate all stressors. Instead of trying to micromanage all the stressors, try to perceive them better. Your stress response to situations is really the big factor. That's really what makes the biggest difference. The stressors are going to be there. You have to receive the situation the best you can. You have to stop, evaluate, detach emotion, use logic, figure out, okay, how do I need to react to this without freaking out and without causing my cortisol to go up so unnecessarily. So it's stress response, training your brain to really do that and get rid of the automatic negative thoughts. I have a whole article on that too. I mean, if you want any of these articles, let me know when I post this and I'll link you. But that's pretty much it, guys. Up 24-ish minutes, so that's pretty good. And we will do it again next week.